Kaijus, what's up? It's your boy Kaiju Kong, aka 2K, emerging from the depths of sweet solitude to bring you some more Sigma soul sustenance. Alright guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about a big weakness that we as Sigma males have. It's a foundational trait that stems from a strength of ours. The strength is self-reliance, extreme self-dependence, and extreme independence. And from this comes this big weakness. And if you're still doubting whether you are Alpha or Sigma, if you have this one key trait, this one key weakness, for sure you're a Sigma, my friend. Now, the reason why I know this is because I myself have experienced this throughout my life. And before I did not know about there being a Sigma. I knew there, like many of you guys, I knew there was only an Alpha, Beta. I didn't even think there was an Omega, a Gamma, or whatever. There was only Alpha or Beta in my dictionary. And I knew that I was not Beta. So having competed on an Alpha plane, on an Alpha field, this key weakness that kept popping up every single time the moment counted was frustrating. And I tried, no matter how hard I tried to self-improve or to mitigate this weakness, it just kept coming up and it kept screwing things over for me. So what is this key weakness that I am talking about? It is leadership and how you lead people, how you lead others. As I mentioned in a previous video, which is right there, I say that the biggest difference between an Alpha and a Sigma is that the Alpha is dominant external while the Sigma is dominant internal. What this means is that the Alpha, being dominant external, wants to control the external environment. He wants to control others. He wants to control circumstances. He wants to control the environment. A Sigma, on the other hand, being dominant internal, wants to control and ultimately master himself. He does not really give a damn what's going on around him. He understands that the environment is pretty much uncontrollable. So therefore, in order to survive and thrive in that environment, he understands that the best way to do that is to adapt and evolve by mastering and self-improving himself and controlling his emotions, controlling his body, controlling his thoughts, controlling his mind, controlling his intelligence, controlling himself. A Sigma, having his own hierarchy, when he is chosen to be the leader, it is hard for him to take control of two hierarchies, so to speak. If you can imagine, he already controls his own hierarchy, which is himself. And then he has to already still also control an external hierarchy. And this is a little bit overbearing for a Sigma. He feels like he is Atlas holding the entire world on his own shoulders. A Sigma's leadership style is leading by example. He is the type of leader that leads from the front. So when you read about generals or when you read about all of these heroes of old that the men really respected because they led from the front lines, they actually led with their men, they fought with the men in the field, in the trenches. Most probably those were Sigma males. But when it came down to the nitty-gritty every single day stuff, where there was just field work, paperwork, getting rudimentary things down and accomplished, it is better for the Alphas to do it. The Sigmas don't bother with that sort of thing. We do not like to be led, nor do we like leading. We like to lead our own lives. We like to march to the beat of our own drums. We are lone wolves. Therefore, when someone tells us something to do, we feel pissed off. When we are told to lead people and to manage a team, we're also pissed off. So it's better that we choose jobs and we choose things to do that where we are our own man. We get to have the power to make our own decisions. We have also the consequences and the power to deal with the consequences as a result of these decisions that we make. But this is how we Sigmas operate. And I don't know if I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos, but when I was in university, I was chosen to be the banquet manager. I studied in hospitality management, and as a final project of that semester, each class had to organize a banquet for a number of guests, like 60, 70 guests. But that was a big realization for me, because doing that project I realized I did not like leading. I liked being in the front. Every now and then, I was only there organizing meetings where I would speak to the class, just speaking like I'm doing with you. But then the everyday rudimentary stuff of having to organize this, having to sit down in meetings and discuss, make decisions, that pissed me off. I didn't like doing that. And in fact, I did not join many of them. What I did, which was different from other classes, was that most of the time the hierarchy looked like banquet manager, assistant banquet manager, and then the heads of the department, the director of finance, the head of service, the head of the kitchen, the head of the entertainment, the head of marketing, and all that. But in my case, in my class, what I did was, there I was at the top of the hierarchy, banquet manager, but instead of just one assistant banquet manager, I had two assistant banquet manager. I chose them specifically and allowed them to have that position because they were alpha in character. And all I had to do was delegate things to them and make larger decisions, and then they carried out the everyday things, the little specific details that didn't really matter to me, how they chose to decide. I gave them the big picture. They took care of the details. I told them the what, they decided the how. And the funny thing is, there I was walking all over the event, there I was going around at the different departments, and from outside the picture, what it looked like is, if you saw me, you would not even think that I was the head of that banquet. You would think that I was just a bypasser or someone who was just spectating. But that's the funny thing about Sigmas, especially those who are the more, let's say, quiet or mysterious ones. You can be the leaders and nobody even knows about it. In a way, knowing that other people thought that my assistant managers were the managers and that they thought that I was basically nothing, it frustrated me, to be honest. But in the end of the day, I knew who was in charge. But being, let's say, trying to fight on that alpha and develop as an alpha, that was really frustrating. And I was wondering how the hell, there was a time when I was actually thinking of handing over the reins of the banquet over to one of the assistant managers, because he was more outspoken, he was more direct, he was very, let's say, he was not afraid of conflict. And I was there because I was the top of the position. People wanted me there because that my assistant manager was actually too harsh, and I was the moral compass. I was the one saying, no, you cannot do that. No, you cannot do this. So actually having me at the top of the pyramid, at the top of the hierarchy, was good in the eyes of many of those I worked with, because if my assistant manager had the reins, my God, the banquet would have been a tyranny. And in the end, the banquet that I led was one of the best of the year and had received one of the highest marks. So you can see, even if maybe at the time you may feel like you're not leading or people don't recognize you as a leader, you still are playing a part in the organization, making sure that everything works well. You are probably one of the foundational pillars of the company, foundational pillars of the group, but people don't recognize you as that. You may feel slightly disappointed in yourself because you may feel like you could have done more, but then your nature tells you that you couldn't. And so knowing that this is a big weakness of mine and of ours, it is your job to already recognize this, to know the symptoms, which is already 50% of solving the problem, and then now what are you going to do with it? How are you going to step forward? How are you going to self-improve? This is the reason why I always keep putting myself out there in leadership positions, so that I train myself to go against my nature, so to speak, or to use my nature in a way that transforms this weakness into a strength. But anyway, what I wanted to say basically in this episode was to know if you are really naturally a Sigma or naturally an Alpha is to look at the way that you lead others or the way that you lead a team. Do you like leading a team? Are you good at it? Are you outspoken? Or do you kind of shy away from it? You don't really like leading others, nor do you like being led. You prefer to do your own thing and you prefer to go your own way. And that is a very key, big difference between an Alpha and a Sigma. But do not let this weakness, so to speak, control you and control your destiny. You control You control your fate and how your life turns out. How are you going to use this weakness as a strength? Or how are you going to transform, or how are you going to position yourself in the world so that this weakness does not have to be shown in the spotlight? And instead, you work and you position yourself in a place where you can highlight on your strengths instead of your weakness. This is why Sigma males, we work best as freelancers or those who make our own decisions in the workplace. So, if you guys resonated with the message, do leave a like and comment your thoughts down below. I really want to know what you guys think about this. And if you haven't already, do consider subscribing to the channel. This is the channel where we level up not only as lone wolves or tigers, but we are looking to become kaijus, the true Sigma male spirit animal. And with that, thank you very much for joining me, brothers. This is Kaiju Kong signing off. Take care.